Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secureteam. Scientists and astronomers have located a rogue object about 100 light years away that is exhibiting some very strange characteristics and is once again challenging what we know about the universe with which we live and the objects found within that universe, some of which may be planets, asteroids, stars, while others may not. So, back in 2012, astronomers spotted a perplexing, isolated object that was found to be more massive than the planet Jupiter, and in terms of its distance from us, looked very much like one of the closest rogue planets we had ever found. The only problem is that this object was like no other rogue planet we had ever seen before. So the strange object, known as CFB-DSIR 2149-0403, has been an object of much mystery, and the evidence they're collecting about this thing is telling them that this may not be a planet at all. And in fact, it's more rogue than we could have ever expected. According to a new ScienceAlert.com article, although most planets are found neatly orbiting a host star, in recent years it's becoming increasingly common for scientists to detect the occasional rogue planet, or a planet that's either been kicked out of its star system or never had one in the first place. And that's what this object is. So when researchers found CFB-DSIR back in 2012, they were excited because it was indeed the closest rogue planet, or what they thought was a rogue planet, detected just a little over 100 light years away. But as they were detecting the size of this thing, they found that it had a mass roughly 4 to 7 times the size of planet Jupiter, so massive. So then they thought, well, possibly could it be a brown dwarf, which is basically a failed star? But the object wasn't big enough, seeing as the lower cutoff size for brown dwarfs is around 13 times more massive than Jupiter. So this thing was kind of right in the middle. They weren't sure if it was a rogue planet or a very small brown dwarf, but it couldn't have been. It was much too small, but again, much more massive than Jupiter. And if you guys know how massive Jupiter is, you could fit around 1,300 Earths inside of Jupiter. 1,300. So that'll give you an idea of just how massive this thing is, and this rogue object is 7 times that. So they also realized that this supposed rogue planet was actually traveling in a group of other objects that are orbiting our galaxy together and are all roughly the same age. Based on their assumption, it was predicted that this rogue object is young, at about 50 to 120 million years old. So it's traveling in a group of objects. And here's where things start getting sticky. The conclusion that this is some sort of rogue planet has not widely been accepted by the scientific community, especially since there is no evidence that the object had formed as a planet or that it had been ejected from any other star system. So they started watching this thing, and they've been watching it for the past couple of years using telescopes across multiple wavelengths. And it turns out that this object is even weirder than any of us could have initially thought. And based off these new observations, they concluded that if this object had previously been part of a group, well, it has now left that group. It is now on its own. And based off of that, well, that opens up another can of worms and removes the age constraints that were previously in place, so this thing could be much older than previously thought, or much newer, for that matter. Even stranger is that the team of astronomers also discovered that this massive rogue object either has very low gravity or an unusually high metal content. And the new observations made them less certain of the object's mass, which means that they can no longer say confidently that it's a planet at all. According to the astronomers, they basically have 2 hypotheses. The first one is that this object is a rogue planet between 2 and 13 times the size of Jupiter. Or it's a brown dwarf, ranging from 2 to 40 times the mass of Jupiter. Then there's a third option, and that is that maybe this rogue object is something else entirely. So they're calling it an atypical substellar object. In other words, it's a free-floating rogue object orbiting our galaxy. And the fact that they are unable to identify it and all of these strange things surrounding it, the fact that it was originally thought to be part of a group, but then years later found that it had moved out of this group or left. So is this thing a planet at all? Is this thing moving at its own volition? They also detected that it had low gravity and what appeared to be a very high metal content. So I think you guys know where I'm going with this. And of course, they don't come out right and say it, but they do imply that this could be something else entirely. So this really does start to make you think. And of course, this is not the first time we have found these mysterious, unidentified objects out in space, massive rogue objects that defy physics, that defy all explanation. These giant megastructures in space, such as the Dyson Sphere mystery, which we've spoken about many times in past videos. And if you're new to the channel or the topic, just to put it really quick, astronomers discovered a star, which is now known as Tabby's star. And when looking at a star, in order to detect whether there's a planet orbiting it, they measure the dips in starlight. So if there is a planet and it moves in front of the star, you will be able to measure a very small dip in that star's light, usually around 1 to 2%. But what has been happening around Tabby's star has completely perplexed astronomers because they have been noticing that the light around this star has been dipping at a rate of 40%, meaning that there is something massive surrounding this star or moving in front of it that has the capability of blocking out such a huge amount of light. And of course, the scientists have gone through all of the theories. They ruled out comets, they've ruled out planets, and really every other hypothesis they've come up with has fallen apart. And they've also noticed that this dimming light seems to be growing in its percentage, as if something is being built around the star. And this is where scientists, not conspiracy theorists, but scientists, came up with the possible theory that there is a giant alien megastructure being built around this star, possibly to harness the energy of the star. And that's where the Dyson Sphere comes in. And it's been theorized that this alien megastructure is a massive array of giant solar panels that are crisscrossing around the star, collecting energy in order to possibly power something else. And the whole thing is just mind-boggling. And they still have no idea what's causing the dips in light, and when the only hypothesis that they're left with is that of an alien megastructure, well, I think, and like so many other unsolved space mysteries recently, that scientists are finally opening up to the possibility that not everything in space is natural as a result of the chaos happening in our universe. And of course, the data shows that it's mathematically impossible that we are the only life in the universe. So I will leave you guys with that today. Let me know what you think. I think it's very possible that we have a massive, unknown, low-gravity metallic object orbiting our galaxy, and the scientists know exactly what it is, but they'll never come out and actually say it. This is a very slow, drip-feeding process, and it's going to be up to channels like ours to look at this evidence and give our gut reaction. So with that, thank you guys for stopping by and watching today. If you have a story you'd like me to do a video about or UFO footage that you'd like to get out there, don't hesitate to email me. Follow me on Twitter, where I am constantly posting updates to when new videos are coming out. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. So thanks for watching and stay safe.